6 months passed. The Nemesis and its crew had become legends, ghost stories told in spaceports across the galaxy. They would appear without warning to defend human interests, then vanish before anyone could track them. The ship had changed dramatically. Its hull now shimmered with a faint blue glow. Inside, corridors had reshaped themselves to be more efficient. Systems that once required manual operation now responded to the crew's thoughts. The crew had changed too. Their eyes had developed a slight luminescence in the dark. They could feel the ship around them, sense its needs and capabilities. They had become part of the Nemesis, and it had become part of them. From their hidden network of abandoned mining bases and forgotten outposts, they watched the galaxy. Captain Miller had established a command center in the largest asteroid base, which they now called Haven. "Incoming transmission from Earth," announced Martinez, who had expanded her communication array to pick up signals from incredible distances. "Admiral Johnson, Priority 1. Miller nodded, and the message appeared on the main screen. Admiral Johnson looked older than he had 6 months ago, the stress of his secret mission evident on his face. "The Vecteri have launched a major offensive against New Terra," Johnson said without preamble. "Our main colony is under attack by a fleet 3 times the size of anything we've faced before. Standard defenses are failing. If New Terra falls, Earth itself could be next." The message ended. Miller looked around at his senior officers, who had gathered in the command center. "Opinions?" he asked, though he already knew what they would say. "We go," said Adams simply. "That's why we're out here." "It's a trap," Brooks warned. "The Vecteri know about us now. They've probably set up sensors to detect our approach." "Then we give them something to detect," Miller decided. "Mr. Carter, how are the new systems performing?" Carter smiled. In the months of exile, he and the ship had developed capabilities that would have been impossible to design intentionally. "Better than I could have imagined, Captain. The quantum displacement field is ready for real-world testing." "Good," Miller said. "Let's show the galaxy what humans and their technology can really do." 20 hours later, the Nemesis dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Terra system. The scene before them was grim. A massive Vecteri fleet surrounded the human colony world. Ground defenses were failing, and the few Earth ships still fighting were badly outnumbered. "They're detecting us," Adams reported. "Multiple ships are breaking off to intercept." "Activate quantum displacement," Miller ordered. Carter touched a control, but it was more than a physical action now. He connected with the ship through the bond they shared, directing its power with his mind as much as his hands. The Nemesis shimmered, and then seemed to split into 5 identical ships. Each copy moved in a different direction, all of them perfectly real to sensors. "How is this possible?" Adams whispered, even though she had helped develop the theory behind it. "The technology from Mars was designed to manipulate reality itself," Carter explained. "We're not creating illusions. We're actually existing in multiple states simultaneously." The Vecteri ships fired on all 5 versions of the Nemesis, but their weapons passed through 4 of them. Only the real ship, which kept shifting its position among the copies, could be affected. Miller felt the crew around him, all of them connected through the ship. They moved as one entity, each person handling their role with perfect coordination. The Nemesis danced between enemy vessels, its gravity weapons disabling Vecteri ships with surgical precision. Within an hour, the battle was over. The Vecteri fleet retreated, leaving their disabled ships behind. As Earth forces moved in to secure the system, Miller opened a channel to the Concord Assembly, which had been watching the battle through observation vessels. "This is Captain John Miller of the UES Nemesis," he said, his voice calm and clear. "We are not your enemy. We have no interest in conquest or aggression, but we will defend humanity, regardless of what you have banned." He paused, looking around at his crew, people who had given up their old lives to become something new. "We are the next step in human evolution, the union of human creativity with technology beyond your understanding. You cannot ban us, because we are what all of you will someday become." With that final message, the Nemesis and its 5 copies shimmered and vanished, leaving the galaxy to wonder what humans would become next. As Earth forces moved in to secure 3 weeks after first contact, the Joint Species Research Station * Orbital Nexus * was fully operational. The station orbited Earth at a safe distance, allowing scientists from both the Galactic Coalition and humanity to study each other. Science Officer Krulvoth had been assigned to study human physiology and behavior patterns. 1 month after the establishment of the * Orbital Nexus *, the human crew decided it was time to host a proper dinner for their alien guests. The station had been designed with separate food preparation areas for each species, as most coalition races found human food either indigestible or deeply offensive. Despite this, the humans felt that sharing a meal was an important cultural exchange. Chef Nicole Bailey had worked for weeks planning what she called a mild selection of Earth cuisines. She wanted to introduce their guests to human food without overwhelming them. The dining area had been decorated with items from different Earth cultures, and the human crew wore their best uniforms. "Remember," Captain Frank Morrison told his crew before the dinner, "this is a big step for interspecies relations. Let's show them the best of humanity." The coalition representatives entered the dining area cautiously. Ambassador Devex of the Florian cluster led the group. Devex was tall and slender with green skin that contained chlorophyll, allowing the plant-based diplomat to photosynthesize energy from light. Behind Devex came science delegate Quill 7, whose species had evolved from herbivores on a distant world, and 5 other coalition members. "Welcome to our first human dinner party," said Captain Morrison, smiling broadly. "Please sit wherever you feel comfortable." The aliens took their places at the specially designed seats. Some required standing positions, while others needed cushion bowls to rest their gelatinous bodies. Nicole brought out the first course, a simple vegetable soup. "This contains no animal products," she explained to the plant-based and herbivore guests. "Just plants from Earth prepared with herbs and spices." The aliens carefully tasted the soup using their various eating appendages. Most seemed pleasantly surprised, though Quill 7's nose twitched rapidly at the unfamiliar scents. For the main course, Nicole served several options: a vegetable curry, grilled fish, and roasted chicken with potatoes. She carefully explained each dish and its ingredients. Captain Morrison happily took a large portion of the curry. He reached for a small red bottle on the table and began adding drops of a bright red liquid to his food. Ambassador Devex watched in horror, leaves rustling in distress. "Captain, what are you adding to your food?" It's just hot sauce. Adds a little kick," Frank replied, adding a few more drops. "That contains capsaicin," Devex said, voice rising. "Our scans show it's a defensive compound plants evolved specifically to prevent consumption by mammals." Frank paused, spoon halfway to his mouth. "Yes, that's true. It makes the food spicy. Many humans enjoy spicy food. You deliberately consume plant chemical defenses. For pleasure?" asked Science Delegate Quill 7, who had pushed away his own plate after the explanation. "Try a tiny bit," suggested Nicole, offering a drop on the tip of a spoon to Quill 7. "Some aliens actually enjoy it too." Quill 7 cautiously extended a tongue-like sensory organ to the spoon. A moment later, the alien jumped up, making a high-pitched whistling sound and waving all 4 arms frantically. 3 attendants rushed over with water. "Sorry about that," Frank said, looking embarrassed. "I guess it's an acquired taste." "An acquired taste," gasped Devex. "You've trained yourselves to enjoy pain." "It's not exactly pain," Nicole tried to explain. "It's more like excitement for our taste buds. Different cultures on Earth have different spice levels they enjoy." The medical team had been standing by throughout the meal. Dr. Maya Bennett stepped forward with a scanner. "Quill 7 is fine, just experiencing a strong sensory reaction. No permanent harm done. Wait until dessert, whispered engineer Steve Harmon to navigator Julie Fisher, but not quietly enough. "There's more," asked Devex, leaves now fully extended in alarm. "Oh yes," Nickel said cheerfully. "We're having chocolate cake. Chocolate contains theobromine, which is toxic to some earth mammals like dogs. But it's perfectly safe for humans. In fact, it releases feel-good chemicals in our brains." The coalition representatives stared at their human hosts in a new light. These creatures not only survived, but actually enjoyed consuming substances that should have killed them or caused extreme pain. What kind of evolution would produce such a result? As the chocolate cake was served, the coalition's cultural experts updated their reports. Humans didn't just endure harsh conditions. They deliberately sought out sensations that other species would consider dangerous or harmful. This made them either incredibly brave or completely insane, possibly both. 2 months after first contact, the Galactic Coalition proposed a joint military exercise. The goal was to assess how human soldiers might work alongside coalition forces in future peacekeeping missions. 5 alien species sent their elite warriors to participate alongside a human team. The exercise would take place in a desert region on Earth. The location was chosen to test all participants under challenging but not lethal conditions. Lieutenant Kelly Peterson and Sergeant Greg Martinez led the human team of 6 soldiers. "Welcome to Nevada," Kelly told the assembled alien warriors on the morning of the exercise. "Today we'll be conducting a simple endurance march across 20 miles of desert terrain. Each team will carry standard equipment packs." Lieutenant Commander Vrix of the Saurian elite forces looked unimpressed. Vrix stood 7 feet tall with scaled skin and powerful muscles. The Saurians were known throughout the galaxy as fearsome warriors. "This seems too simple," Vrix said, sharp teeth showing as she spoke. "My warriors can run faster and carry more weight than any human." "It's not about speed or strength," Greg explained. "It's about working together and completing the mission as a united team." The exercise began at dawn. Each species had advantages the humans lacked. The Saurians had superior strength and speed. The Arachni could move over rough terrain with their 8 legs. The Volari could glide short distances with their wing membranes. The Muldoon had enhanced vision that could see heat signatures. The Krell had protective shells that kept them cool in the hot sun. At first, the alien warriors easily outpaced the humans. They moved faster, jumped higher, and seemed barely affected by the desert heat. 2 hours into the march, most alien teams were far ahead of the humans. "Shouldn't we try to keep up?" asked Private Jeff Dawson, the youngest human soldier. "No need," Kelly replied, taking a small sip from her water canteen. "We pace ourselves. This isn't a sprint." By midday, the coalition teams began to slow down. The desert heat was taking its toll, even on species adapted to harsh conditions. The humans continued at their steady pace, eventually catching up to the alien groups who had started so confidently. After 8 hours, most of the alien warriors were showing clear signs of exhaustion. The Saurians sat in the shade of a rock formation, their normally energetic bodies moving sluggishly. The Volari had folded their wing membranes tightly to prevent dehydration. The other teams were similarly affected. The humans, however, kept walking. They were sweating heavily, their faces red from the sun, but they didn't stop. "How are you still moving?" asked Vrix when the humans passed the resting Saurian team. "We've been marching for 10 hours. That's just the beginning," Greg said with a small smile. "We train for much longer marches than this." By hour 14, only the humans were still on their feet. They had completed 18 miles and were approaching the finish point. Lieutenant Commander Vrix had forced her team back to their feet to follow the humans, watching them with new respect. "They just keep going," Vrix said to Tactical Officer Zorn of the Krell. "We've been moving for 14 hours, and they haven't stopped once." "It defies biological logic," Zorn replied, his shell showing signs of stress cracks from the heat. "They're smaller, weaker, and have no special adaptations for this environment. When all teams finally reached the endpoint, the humans set up camp while the alien warriors collapsed in exhaustion. Kelly and Greg still had energy to prepare meals and check on everyone's condition. Later that evening, as the teams recovered around a campfire, Vrix approached Kelly. "How do you do it? We are stronger and faster, but you outlasted us all." "It's called persistence hunting," Kelly explained, stretching her muscles. "Back before we had weapons, humans would chase animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. We're not the strongest or fastest, but we evolved to keep going when other species need to rest." "You mean your ancestors pursued prey until mutual exhaustion, then killed the weakened creature?" asked Zorn, horrified. "Pretty much," Greg nodded, drinking from his canteen. "We're endurance hunters by evolution. Want to do another lap?" The Coalition military observers updated their assessment of human capabilities that night. They reclassified humans from physically unimposing to terrifyingly relentless in their official reports. The human ability to continue physical activity long after other species required rest made them valuable allies and potentially dangerous enemies. 3 months into the Cultural Exchange Program, the recreation module of the Asterisk Orbital Nexus Asterisk became the source of regular confusion. The human crew members had requested permission to host what they called a dance party to share an important aspect of Earth culture with their alien colleagues. The station commander had approved the request, though with some concerns about safety. Special monitoring equipment was installed to ensure the event didn't cause any diplomatic incidents. Communications Officer Diane Jackson spent the whole day setting up speakers and lights in the largest common area. She had brought a collection of Earth music spanning different styles and time periods. "This is going to be awesome," Diane told mechanical engineer Sharon Lee as they tested the sound system. "I can't wait to see how they react to hip-hop." "Maybe start with something gentler," Sharon suggested. "Classical might be less shocking." By evening, the recreation module was ready. Colorful lights created patterns on the walls and ceiling. Tables with food and drinks lined one wall. The human crew arrived first, excited for a taste of home after months in space. When the Coalition representatives entered, they looked confused by the transformation of the familiar space. Cultural attaché Elspeth of the Harmonic Collective approached Diane with particular interest. Elspeth's species communicated entirely through precisely calibrated sound frequencies, making them especially sensitive to audio stimulation. "I understand this is a cultural demonstration," Elspeth said, her translator converting her musical tones into English. "What exactly will happen here?" "We're going to play music and dance," Diane explained. "It's how humans socialize and have fun." "Music?" Elspeth's body changed color slightly, indicating curiosity. "You mean organized sound patterns?" "Exactly." Diane smiled. "Different cultures on Earth have different music styles. We'll share some of our favorites tonight." Security Chief Ryan Beck joined them. "Don't worry, we'll start slow. Nothing too crazy at first." Diane dimmed the main lights and started the music. She began with a gentle classical piece, Mozart's Ein kleine Nachtmusik. The aliens listened carefully, some seeming to enjoy the structured patterns while others appeared confused. "This creates no information transfer," said sinoanthropologist T'Prin, who had been studying human communication. "What purpose do these sound waves serve?" "It's not about information," Sharon explained. "It's about feeling. Music makes us feel emotions." T'Prin made notes on a datapad. "Humans create non-communicative sound patterns to induce emotional responses. Fascinating." After several classical pieces, Diane gradually shifted to more modern music. When she played a jazz piece, some of the human crew began to sway gently. The aliens watched with growing interest. "Now for something with a beat," Diane announced, playing an old Earth hip-hop track. The bass dropped, and instantly Security Chief Ryan and Engineer Sharon began moving their bodies in synchronized patterns. Now they're expending energy to move in non-locomotory patterns, observed T. Prin. Are they having some form of seizure? They're dancing, explained Dr. Maya Bennett, moving to the rhythm of the music. It's a form of expression. More humans joined in, moving their bodies in different ways that somehow all matched the beat of the music. Several began singing along with the lyrics. Cultural attaché Elspeth's skin turned a bright yellow, a sign of alarm among her kind. They're reproducing the sound patterns vocally. But they have no specialized sound organs like my species. Humans can mimic many sounds, Maya said. We call it singing when it matches music. As the night continued, Diane played music from different Earth cultures. African drums, Asian string instruments, European folk songs, and modern electronic dance music. The humans became more animated, dancing with increasing energy and emotion. A few brave aliens attempted to join in, with mixed results. A Florian diplomat's leaves began to sway in time with a gentle melody. A Muldoon security officer tried to copy Ryan's dance moves, though its 4 legs made the human patterns difficult to reproduce. By the end of the night, the coalition cultural experts had pages of new observations. Humans didn't just create art, they physically embodied it in ways that defied evolutionary explanation. They expended precious energy to move in patterns that served no survival purpose. They created and enjoyed organized sound with no information content. The Coalition's cultural report that night contained a new conclusion. Human artistic expression wasn't just an interesting cultural quirk. It was central to their identity as a species, a form of communication beyond words that the Coalition was only beginning to understand. 4 months after first contact, the Galactic Coalition began collecting human cultural artifacts for the Great Archive. Every species that joined the Coalition contributed their knowledge, art, and history to this vast digital library. Now it was Earth's turn to add their cultural treasures. Chief Librarian Cole of the Knowledge Preservation Guild arrived at the Asterisk Orbital Nexus Asterisk to oversee this important task. Cole belonged to a species with 4 eye stalks and 6 delicate limbs perfect for handling fragile data crystals. The librarian had cataloged 27 other species contributions during a long career. Literature professor Olivia Grant was chosen to help Cole understand human written works. They met in a special room set up with both human books and digital readers. These are some examples of Earth's greatest literature, Olivia explained, showing Cole a shelf of classic novels. We have poetry, plays, novels, short stories, and many other forms of writing. Cole carefully examined a copy of Shakespeare's complete works. This contains information about your history. Not exactly, Olivia said. Shakespeare wrote plays, stories that actors would perform. Most of them aren't about real events. Cole's eye stalks trembled slightly. Not real events. I don't understand. They're fiction. Made-up stories, Olivia explained. Humans create stories about people and events that never existed. For 3 days, Cole studied human literature with growing confusion. On the 4th day, the librarian requested an urgent meeting with the Coalition Council representatives on the station. These humans, Cole began, eye stalks shaking with agitation, deliberately create elaborate falsehoods and share them widely. They call this fiction and consider it valuable. They're called stories, Olivia explained to the confused council members. We've been telling them for thousands of years. But they describe events that never occurred, beings that never existed. Cole protested, holding up a copy of Moby Dick. This describes a large sea creature hunted by humans, but the specific events never happened. That's what makes it interesting, said pilot Joe Wilson, who had joined the meeting. He had loaned Cole this collection of science fiction novels the previous day. The author imagined it and shared that imagination with others. The concept caused immediate confusion among the Coalition representatives. Most species had historical records, technical manuals, and factual documents. Some had poetry that described real emotions or events in artistic ways, but none had entire categories of writing dedicated to things that never happened. Do humans have difficulty distinguishing between reality and these fabrications? Asked Ambassador Xor, a senior council member. Not at all, said Olivia. We know the difference. Fiction lets us explore ideas, feelings, and possibilities in ways that reality doesn't always allow. The confusion deepened when Joe explained movies and television shows to the group. We spend billions of dollars creating visual stories with actors pretending to be people they aren't, in situations that never happened. So this Star Wars depicts a conflict that never occurred, technologies that don't exist, and species that aren't real? Asked Ambassador Xor, examining the digital file Joe had provided. Yes, and it's awesome, confirmed flight engineer Samantha Reed, who had joined the group late. Want to watch it tonight? I've got the whole saga. Cole spent another week examining human fiction before submitting a final report to the Coalition Council. The report noted that humans devoted enormous resources to creating detailed accounts of things that never happened. They built entire industries around sharing these fabrications. Even more strangely, they used these invented scenarios to process real emotions and explore real ideas. The council debated for days about how to classify this unusual behavior. Some members argued it showed humans were dangerously disconnected from reality. Others suggested it demonstrated remarkable creativity and mental flexibility. After much discussion, they reluctantly classified human fiction as a harmless cultural quirk rather than a species-wide delusion. But privately, many council members remained unconvinced. A species that devoted so much energy to imaginary scenarios was unpredictable at best and potentially unstable at worst. The humans would need careful watching in the years ahead. 6 months after first contact, the Galactic Coalition and Earth established their first joint colony on a small planet in the Alpha Centauri system. Named Harmony, the colony was designed to test how humans and various alien species could work together in a shared settlement. Colony Director Ben Martinez led the human team of 50 settlers. The coalition sent 30 representatives from 12 different species. The colony's main purpose was scientific research, but it also served as a symbol of cooperation between Earth and the wider galactic community. The storm will reach us in approximately 28 hours, Vorex explained, pointing to a holographic display. Our current shields can only withstand 40% of the projected radiation. The room fell silent as everyone processed this information. The coalition species followed their standard emergency protocols, beginning with probability calculations. The statistical likelihood of complete colony survival is 23.7%, announced Logic Officer Trill, whose species specialized in mathematical analysis. We should prepare evacuation ships for the most essential personnel. Wait, Ben said, standing up from his chair. We're not evacuating anyone. We need to find a way to strengthen our shields. The alien representatives looked at Ben with surprise. Logic Officer Trill's facial tentacles curled in confusion. Director Martinez, the numbers are clear, Trill said. The shields cannot be sufficiently reinforced in the available time frame. We haven't tried yet, Ben replied, turning to the human engineers. Sarah, Jake, what if we redirect power from the secondary systems? Maybe we could boost the shield capacity. Engineer Sarah Kim nodded. It might work. We could also modify the shield frequencies to better match the specific radiation patterns of the storm. The probability of successfully reinforcing the shields to adequate levels is approximately 12.8%. Trill noted, still calculating on a small device. It would be more logical to prepare for evacuation. Never tell me the odds, Ben replied with a small smile, recognizing the quote though no one else did. We're going to make it. For the next 24 hours, humans and aliens worked side by side to strengthen the colony's defenses. The human team approached the problem with unusual energy, suggesting ideas that the coalition scientists considered highly improbable or even impossible. These power couplings weren't designed to handle that much energy, protested Mechanical Officer Drix as Jake Chen rewired a critical system. They weren't, Jake agreed, but we can bypass the safety limiters and add some extra cooling. It'll work. As the storm approached, coalition species continued calculating survival probabilities, preparing for significant losses, and organizing resource preservation plans. Meanwhile, the humans refused to accept any solution that sacrificed even a single life. With just 2 hours remaining, the modified shield system was ready for testing. The coalition scientists gave it a 31.5% chance of success, better than before, but still likely to fail. "Let's fire it up," Ben ordered, standing in the control room with both human and alien staff. "Everyone stays. We face this together." When the storm hit, the improved shields glowed bright blue against the dark sky. Power systems strained to their limits. Several secondary systems failed exactly as predicted, but the shields held. After 18 hours of constant storm battering, the danger passed. Every colonist survived. The coalition scientists were stunned. According to their calculations, this outcome had been highly improbable. During the post-crisis analysis, coalition psychologists identified what they considered the most inexplicable human characteristic: hope that defied rational calculation. When logic indicated failure, humans somehow performed at their best. They rejected statistical certainties and acted as if success was the only option. Humans, concluded Ambassador Zixtal in the final cultural exchange report, remain an evolutionary mystery. They consume toxins for pleasure, render themselves unconscious daily, expend energy creating falsehoods, and persevere despite logic dictating otherwise. They are, by any reasonable standard, strange beyond comprehension. But the ambassador added a final note after witnessing humans rebuild what should have been an unsalvageable colony. Perhaps the galaxy needs a bit more strangeness.